Okay, Year 7, welcome to your new unit on time and measurement. We're going to start with time. Guys, the first thing you need to be doing is you need to be having your theory book or your grid book, whichever one you write your theory in, and you need to be putting this heading in red pen, time and introduction. Underneath it, guys, we need to be having all the words that are on this slide. So first start with a definition. Now, I've written this definition out for you and you need to write it in your books. It says, time is one of our most useful measurements. We can use it to work out how long we've been doing something or how long we have until we must do something. So time helps us work out our day, and plan activities in our day. Now, when we look at time, we also have to look at this concept, guys, of units. What a unit is and different units of time. So depending on the activity or depending on the event or depending on what we want to use or how we want to measure time, it's measured in different units. So our smallest unit that we're going to be looking at today, guys, is seconds. So there is 60 seconds in 1 minute, 60 minutes in 1 hour, 24 hours in 1 day, 7 days in 1 week, 2 weeks in a fortnight, about 4 weeks. There's not always, depending on the month, there's usually a few days less or a few days more in 1 month, 12 months in 1 year, and about 365 days, depending on if it's a leap year or not, in 1 year. So you'll notice, guys, that our units have gone up. We've gone seconds to minutes, minutes to hours, hours to days, days to weeks, weeks to fortnights, fortnights or about 4 weeks to months, months to years, and then I've also gone and done 365 days in a year because that's another common unit that you need to be able to understand. So time is divided into units, and depending on what we're measuring, we'd use different units. Let's have a look at some examples here of the way in which we can work out time. So our example 1 here says, and these are the types of questions we're going to start looking at as we start to introduce ourselves to this topic of time. So first thing you need to be doing, guys, is you need to be writing a subheading that says example 1, and you need to be writing out this question. How many minutes are there in 4.5 hours? Now, what we do here when we're trying to work out minutes to hours or 1 unit to another unit is we need to write down the important information. So the first thing when I'm doing this example is I'm going to write down, okay, I've got 4.25 hours, okay? And we want to work out how many minutes. First thing I do, I know back from my previous slide that there is 60 minutes in an hour. And in 4.25 hours, there is 4 whole hours. First thing I do is multiply the number of whole hours by the number of minutes in 1 hour. So I will be going 60 times 4. Now, 60 times 4, let's do our 6 times tables. 6 1s are 6, 6 2s are 12, 6 3s are 18, 6 4s are 24, and if it's 60, I add a 0, so 240. So there's 240 minutes in 4 hours. But the question's asking me for 4.25 hours. So a quarter of an hour. What's another way of writing a quarter of an hour? We can work that out really easily. Quarter of an hour, 15 minutes. So I've got 240 minutes plus 15 minutes. Altogether, 4.25 hours equals 240 plus 15 equals 255 minutes. See what I've done there, guys? Step 1, write down the important information. Step 2, calculate the number of minutes in whole hours. Step 3, calculate the leftover. Step 4, add them both together, coming to a solution there. Pretty straightforward. Let's have a look at another example. Our next example says, how many minutes are there in 5 days? So again, step 1, we write down the important information. I have to find out 5 days. 5 days. Okay, I have to work out how many minutes there are in 5 days. Again, guys, you should be writing another heading. Example 2, writing the question here, how many minutes are there in 5 days, and also annotating how I'm working it out for you. So, 5 days. Now, our smallest unit of measurement is seconds, then minutes, then hours, and then days. So when we're tackling this question, the first thing we need to look at is, what 2 units am I working out, or am I going from? I'm going from minutes to days. Now, before I go from minutes to days, it might be a good idea, guys, if you write this down on the side of the page if you're getting confused. Minutes, hours, days. Okay, put seconds in beforehand. Seconds. Okay, I'm going from this unit of measure here to this unit of measure here. However, I can't just skip like that. I will need to work out hours before I can work out days. So how do we do this? Second thing I need to work out is how many minutes are there in an hour. So there's 60 minutes in an hour. Okay, so now I've jumped up to this unit of time. There are 24 hours in one day. One day. Okay, there's 24 hours in one day. So, to work out how many minutes there are in a day, I simply go 60 times 24. So that's 60 minutes an hour, 24 hours in a day. That means in total, 60 times 24, 1440 minutes in one day. So there is 1,440 minutes in a day. How do I work out how many minutes are in 5 days? That's how many minutes are in one day. How would I work out how many minutes are in 5 days? Guys, it's simply a matter of timesing it. So 1440 multiplied by 5 equals, you'll need your calculator for this, 7200. So let's writing that up nicely. There are, Mr. Corsi's stylus isn't working very well, 7200 or 7,200 minutes in 5 days. Guys, lesson to take from this. Understanding the different units of measurement. Understanding that we were trying to get from minutes to days. Before getting from minutes to days, we had to work out how many minutes there were in an hour. Then after working out how many minutes are an hour, we could go from hours to days. So, if this is confusing you at this point, it might be a good idea to write this little chart on the side of your page before you work out any questions. Okay guys, finally our last question is a time-lapse question, and it's asking you to find the time difference between 7:15 and 10:25. Now, it can be kind of easy for a few of you to sit there and quickly work it out. However, this is a simple question. It will become a little bit difficult when you get from PMs to AM times or AM to PM times or more than 24 hours. So I like to employ a bit of a strategy when tackling these questions. So the first thing I like to do, guys, is to draw up a little bit of a table. So whenever answering a time-lapse question, I write a little table that looks a bit like this. I write hours, I write minutes. Okay. Now, the first thing we need to do is writing our start time that we want to find out. So it's 7:15. Okay. When we're trying to tackle this, it's easy to work in whole hours and work out the little minutes in between. So after 7:15, we need to find the next whole hour. So 7:15 is quarter past the hour, which means 8 o'clock is the next whole hour. And then I write the finishing time, which is 10:25. It'll make sense in a second why I've done this. So between 7:15 and 8 o'clock, there's no whole hours, but there is 45 minutes. Okay. Between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock, there is 2 hours and 25 minutes. So look at this. So easy to work out. So we've come to an answer that there's between 7:15 and 10 o'clock there is 2 hours and 70 minutes. Now, when we look at our answer, 2 hours and 70 minutes, we know there's 60 minutes in an hour. So our actual answer down the bottom, guys, if there's 60 minutes in an hour, we have to cross that off and that'll become 3 hours. 70 minus 60 is 10. So the time difference between 7:15 and 10:25 p.m. is 3 hours and 10 minutes. 3 hours, 10 minutes. So again, what I've done there on the step is I have put the starting time, the next whole hour, the finishing time, and I've calculated the minutes and the hours in between each of, so between that stage and that stage, I've calculated the minutes, there was no whole hours, and between that stage and that stage, I've calculated the whole hours, and I've calculated the minutes. And I came to 2 hours, like I had here originally, 2 hours and 70 minutes. Now we know with our units of measure that there's 60 minutes in an hour, so I can't write an answer of 2 hours and 70 minutes. I have to convert it to proper time, which is 3 hours, 10 minutes. Okay guys, here's another example, and this is an even trickier one. Okay, so first off, the first thing we have to do is again draw a vertical timeline. So writing down in your grid book or your rule book example 4 and find the time difference between 2:50 and 8:20 p.m. Again, I draw up my little diagram, minutes, hours. Now, with my times here on the side, I am going from AM to 8:20 p.m. So 10 to 3 in the morning till nearly 8:30 the next evening, okay? There's a few different time periods in between then, so we're going to have to write a few more things in our vertical timeline. But, as always, we start with our opening time or our starting time, 2:50. We go to the next whole hour, which is 3 o'clock. However, we will pass midday, so it is a good idea that we write in 12 noon or 12 midday, okay? And then we write our closing time, 8:20. Now you'll notice that there is a lot of hours in between 2:50 and 8:20. That's why I've used this middle point, 12 noon, as kind of a place in between. So we don't have to calculate so many hours at once. The number of hours between 2:50 a.m. and 3 a.m. Not really working out. Actually, guys, I'm just going to pop these PMs and AMs in here for you, so this will be able to make sense. Okay, so no whole hours between 2:50 and 3 a.m., but there is 10 minutes. Okay, between 3 a.m. and 12 noon, there is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's 9. Oops, sorry, I was writing it in the wrong column. Make sure you write it in the right column, guys. 9 hours between 3 a.m. and midday. Then between midday and 8:20, there is 8 hours and 20 minutes. Guys, look how super simple this is now. Simply a matter of calculating both ends. So, 20 plus 10, 30. 9 plus 8, 17. So, the total time difference is 17 hours, 30 minutes. And it's as simple as that, guys. Okay, start getting on with the exercises.